I was hoping you'd come. We need to fuel up our time machine. We have these pellets. Let it warm up a little, and then we'll be off. So my name is Theophilus Tauber. I am the time traveler. And I've invited you with me this Christmas Eve night, this very special Christmas Eve night, to go on a fantastic journey with me. You see, we are going to go back in time, and we're going to visit 4 Christmases in the past. And this time machine here is exactly what we need to do it. Now, I don't want you to be afraid of my time machine as we travel along today, because this machine might make a lot of noise and might be a little hissy, but she's very reliable and sturdy, and you'll be perfectly safe. A couple of things you ought to know. We are going to arrive at these places in the past, and you have to stay in the time machine. You must not exit, because people wouldn't know what to think of you if they saw you. You're from another generation. So you stay here, and we can have you look through the window as long as you like, but you just must stay inside. When we go, you'll have to hold on to your chairs, because we're going to travel at unimaginable speeds as we go back in time. And what fun we'll have as we visit these places. But I do not want you to think that what we're doing here this evening is simply a lark. No. We are going to discuss something that's terribly important. The real meaning of Christmas. And at each of these stops along the way, 4 different stops, you're going to learn something very special about Christmas. And you have to understand about Christmas, because you never really understand about life until you understand about Christmas. So today, we're going to go on a beautiful trip through time, back to Christmases long ago. We're going to start in just a moment with a Christmas that was not so long ago, but you'll see when we get there, this is very special. Back we go to the year 1968, and something very special happened on Christmas Eve. Let's see if we can get a little ignition here and get things going, shall we? Hold on. Here we go. Yes. The year 2010. The year 2000. The year 1990. 1980. 1970. Right about here. All right. Now, before I open the viewer portal, I want you to know that we are in 1968. A little backstory. In 1961, the Russian cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin was the first man to ever go into space. In less than a couple of hours, his rocket took off. He went and did a full orbit around Earth, and then he landed, ejecting out of the seat and coming down in a parachutes for the space capsule as well. And in less than 2 hours, he became the first man to ever go into outer space. The president at that time in the Soviet Union stood in front of everybody, and he said, Gagarin went out into space, and we didn't see any God there. And that became a poster, a propaganda poster. Perhaps you've seen it somewhere along the way. And the astronaut is looking out into space, and in Russian it says, there is no God. That was 1961. Now we go to 1968, where I brought you today. In 1968, something wonderful happened. Our American astronauts happened to be in space, and this time they were orbiting not the Earth, they were orbiting the moon. And they would orbit the moon 10 times in about 70 hours altogether for their space flight. They would go 10 times, not around the Earth, but around the moon. And as they orbited the 9th time, it was about 9:30 on Christmas Eve night. And people all over the world were gathering around their TVs, because the astronauts on their 9th orbit around the moon were going to give a message to the people of the world. Their bosses at NASA told the astronauts, this is going to be the largest viewing audience that there has ever been in the history of mankind. 1 billion people will listen to what you have to say, so say something appropriate. And they didn't know what they should say at first, but then they had the perfect idea. They decided that they would read something from the Bible. So Christmas Eve night, 1968, 9:30, Americans, people all over the world, went to their television sets to see what the astronauts were going to say. And the astronauts, they could not say that they had seen God. Remember, the Russians said, we didn't see God. But they saw God's fingerprint. And they saw that there was a true God creator, and it was just so evident there. And they thought, what should we tell the people on Christmas Eve, 1968? And let's just listen to what they told the people for 2.5 minutes. This is what we hear as we go back in time. Christmas Eve, 9:30, 1968.
Back on Earth, we call the following as a message that we would like to send to you. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. And God saw the light. That it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day. And the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning was the first day. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters. Let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament. And divided the waters which were under the firmament, the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. And the evening and the morning was the second day. God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas.
And they said there is too a God. It's very important on Christmas Eve that you know that there is a God. A God who created you, a God who does exist, and a God who really makes Christmas Eve the reason for the season. So we start there. We have to know that there is a God. But that's not enough, is it? It's important that I brought you time travelers to 1968 to be reminded that there is a God and that He made you and He made the heaven and the earth, and the whole thing, the whole universe is just a stage to act out the wonderful theater of God's love toward people, and the love of people toward God, and the love of people toward one another. And that's why there is a heaven and earth. And so we begin to understand the meaning of Christmas, the real meaning of Christmas. But that's not all. That's not enough. We have to go back further in time. So join me in the time machine travels again as we go this time, not to 1968, but to 1944. Come with me. 1960, 1950, right there. I brought you to World War II. This was a scary time for the American people. The year is 1944. It's Christmas. And the people are afraid because some of their people have died. Loved ones have gone to war and they've died. And some more will still die. We're 6 months away from victory in Europe. And we're a year and a half away from victory in the Pacific. Judy Garland, in those days, was filming a movie that's called Meet Me in St. Louis. She had 2 birthdays while that movie was being filmed. She had a birthday when she was 21 during that filming. Took a whole year to film it, and so her birthday when she was 22 occurred while they were still filming. She was entertaining soldiers and sailors and airmen who were just about her age. And this song, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, originally didn't have a very good feel to it. It didn't have a very encouraging vibe. And so Judy Garland said, we need to rework the words. And when they changed the words of the song, it started with, have yourself a merry little Christmas. And the sailors and the soldiers and the airmen, they needed to hear that. There's a line in the song that says, through the years we all will be together if the fates allow. Well, of course, some of them were not allowed to be together. They were separated by war. But that thought is very important when you think about the meaning of Christmas. Because Christmas is so much about loved ones. Through the years, we'll all be together, right? Someday, not too long from now, she says, maybe next year, all our troubles will be far away. What a nice thought. It's not always like that, is it? And so she sang the song, and she was thinking of all the families that were separated by war. Well, you know, it was just a short time later, and we finally did have victory in war, but a lot of our people were lost, and we realized that Christmas is so much about being together. That's what we really want. This is 1944, and in 1942, the most popular song was White Christmas. 1943, I'll be home for Christmas, if only in my dreams. And 1944, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. So we're learning by this Christmas in 1944 something about the meaning of the true meaning of Christmas, because we have all been burdened with an unbearable weight. We come in life to start loving people. And then we love them more and we love them long. And pretty soon, along comes something that separates us. And it breaks our hearts. And what we really need is a way to quit being separated from our loved ones. And that is part of the Christmas story too. That's part of the true meaning of Christmas. There has to be a way that you can love a person and then not have your heart broken when they go away. We want to say, through the years, we all will be together. We want to say, someday soon, you know, from now on, our troubles will be far away. That's what we want to say. And there has to be a way to do that. And Christmas tells us part of that story. So we've talked about the existence of God who created you and put you on this earth as a part of the great drama of the universe of God's love for you and your love for Him. And we've talked about the love of people and how we have to find a way not to be separated from the ones we love. But that's not wholly the story of Christmas. There's more. And so we want to go back even further. We want to take you back way beyond 1944. I'm going to take you back to 1843. So hold on to your seats. Let's fire up this time machine and get her going again. This is 1930, 1920, 1900. This is 1890. This is about the right place. Stopping here. This is 1843. This is the year that Charles Dickens wrote a book you know all about, don't you? It's called A Christmas Carol. What you might not know is that Charles Dickens sort of is called the father of Christmas. Because in those days, people really didn't very often do things like sing Christmas carols. They did not have Christmas trees. They did not get together for family feasts. They did not oftentimes give gifts to one another. That wasn't done in England and America very often in 1843. In about the early 1840s, 1841, Prince Albert, who was married to Queen Victoria, created quite a stir when he brought a Christmas tree into the royal home. And that's because he's from Germany and they had Christmas trees in Germany. He put real candles on those Christmas trees and he decorated them, and it created quite a stir. People weren't used to seeing such a thing. He also had an interesting custom of giving gifts to the people in his family that he loved. And so he began to give gifts. And that created some interest as well. Well, Charles Dickens latched onto that, and when he wrote his book, A Christmas Carol, next thing you know, everybody in all of England and America has a Christmas tree, is giving gifts, and doing all these things that we consider to be Christmas traditions of feasting and being together with family and all of those things. And Charles Dickens kind of started that. Now, as you know, Charles Dickens has this character in his book. You know his name, Ebenezer Scrooge. Well, here is how Ebenezer Scrooge is described by Dickens. Scrooge, a squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner, hard and sharp as flint, from which no steel could ever strike out a warm fire. He was secret and self-contained and solitary, and the cold within him froze his old features. That's Ebenezer Scrooge. But you know he changed, right? He did what we Christians call a conversion. And he went from being that covetous old sinner to being a different man. This is the way Dickens described him when he converted. But of course you know that Scrooge changed. Scrooge was better than his word. To Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father and became as good a friend, as good a master, and as good a man as the good old city ever knew, and any other good old city. And it was always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well, if any man alive possessed such knowledge. And so Ebenezer Scrooge became good. Now we ask ourselves then, what made him good? We could ask Charles Dickens, but he doesn't say anything in his story really about it. It says that on Christmas Day he woke up and he went to church. But that's all it says about that. And the problem is, Charles Dickens himself did not know how a person would be empowered to convert. He knew that those things happened because the evidence was all around him, as it is all around you, and people change all the time. But as for how it happened, Dickens didn't seem to know. As a matter of fact, about 15 years after he wrote his famous Christmas story, he himself was overwhelmed with selfish impulses, and he separated from his devoted wife. At that time, he had 5 children under the age of 15 living in his home, and he took all those children to himself, and he drove his wife away. He did give her a house to live in, but she was all by herself. When she was no longer a wife and no longer a mother, the children weren't allowed to visit very often. She found very little happiness in this world, and she died an unhappy woman 20 years later. So Ebenezer Scrooge changed. He became as good a man as the good old city had ever seen. But why did he change? How did he change? Dickens did not know. And so we can't ask him. But we're striking upon the reason for the season, the real meaning of Christmas. And that is, it has to do with conversion, people changing, and people changing all the time. And we still don't know, as Dickens didn't tell us, how it is that he changed, but we know that he changed. And so if we want the answer for the reason for Christmas, for the meaning, the true meaning of Christmas, we have to get in that time machine, and we have to go farther back. And we're going to power it up again, and this time go way back. Hold on to your chairs. We have a long ways to go. This is year 1800, 1700, 1600, 15, 14, 13, 12, the year 1000. Way back, very fast, 300, 200, 100. This is Bethlehem, about 6 miles southwest of Jerusalem, and we are now at a little manger. And this is a very special place. The year is about 1 BC. As you can see, something big is going on here that has everything to do with the reason for Christmas. Remember I told you that the astronauts, contrary to the cosmonauts, said there is a God. He does exist. And on Christmas Eve, it's terribly important that you know that. Well, you see this baby here? The baby in the manger near all those animals? He's the one. He in full equal partnership with the Father, created the heavens and the earth. And he created you. Isn't that something to know that such a God would actually come here as a baby? Who would think? And yet this is your creator. Well, you remember we talked about the deep burden that nobody can carry about wanting to love people all your life and never be separated from them. I mean, how can we live with the idea of being separated from all the people who have really mattered to us? And you see the baby there in the manger, the one there in the lowly estate. Well, that baby, he's the one who'll give you away, never to be separated from your loved ones again. You see, those people standing around, that's what's happening to them. They're learning that because this baby comes with a Christmas gift. The gift is called everlasting life. You see those people coming around there? That's what a lot of them are getting just now. They're getting everlasting life. They're getting their Christmas gift from the baby in the manger. You look at their faces. It must feel really, really good to have everlasting life. Remember we said that we didn't know how people could convert, how they could get the power, the willpower to change. How does that change occur? Well, you see the baby there in the manger. He's the one. He gives people the ability to be different, to truly change. Even the people who were covetous old sinners. See, some of those fellows who are giving gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh, they were probably covetous old sinners, but they changed. And people change all the time around that Christmas manger. It's quite a thing to imagine. And so you find these gathered around. Now there's one more thing I have to tell you. And that is, a long, long time ago, I also knelt before the Savior in the manger, in the time machine of my heart. And I knelt before the Savior on a cross in the time machine of my heart. And I knelt before the Savior at an empty tomb that once held his body. And I have to tell you that that's the real meaning of Christmas. You see all these people standing around, they're learning that there is a God who exists. And he made you, he made me, and he made the heavens and the earth as a great stage for his love drama to be played out. And the same God made a way for us so that we can be together through the years unending. We will be home for Christmas. And someday soon, our troubles will be miles away. That's what Christmas is all about. And we understand it through conversion, when our lives are changed by the baby in a manger, who became the Savior on the cross, and the rescuer from death at the empty tomb. And so that's the true meaning of Christmas. Now we have to get back in this time machine and go back home to the time and place where we really belong. But I hope that while we were here, you bowed your knee to the baby in the manger. I hope that in the time machine of your heart, you've said that wonderful yes to Jesus, that you'll make room for him. You'll follow him right into his heavenly home and have everlasting life. And if you have loved ones who already have this everlasting life, I have an idea that their great prayer and desire for you is that you'd bow your knee to the Savior in the time machine of your heart and follow him wherever he takes you as well, all the days of your life, and then when you die, forever and ever. This is the true meaning of Christmas, and I hope you remember that every Christmas, but especially tonight on this beautiful Christmas Eve.